Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Tuesday, June 9th. Believe it or not, Donald Duck Day. That's a serious thing, and it's a serious thing because we've got a very serious show to talk about. Cape Fear. Cape Fear reminds me of the It monster, in that every generation, there seems to be, every 30 years, there's another version of it that comes out.
And there's a kid in every single one.
Well, kids go with horror pretty well, yeah. And also, what is with all the horror shows coming out at this time of year? Like May, June? That's
Are you
usually
talking
not
about
the
like
time.
Widow's Bay and
Spider
stuff like that?
Noir, Widow's Bay, The Burrows. Like, we've gotten a lot of horror shows.
Is Spider Noir horror?
Spider Noir counts as horror, I think, because of Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage knows horror. But it feels like October for that reason, you know? 1961. That's when the first Cape Fear...
1962.
1962. You're right. 1962 is when the first Cape Fear movie came out. It was based off a book called The Executioner.
Yep,
Yes, no?
and that came out in 1957 by John Dan McDonald.
And then in 1991, they redid it with Robert De Niro. And then in 2026, now we have it with Javier Bardem playing the evil mastermind character. I'm going to read you the synopsises to all three of them, and you see how it's changed over the years. First one was 1962. A lawyer's family is stalked by a man he once helped put in jail. Okay.
Yeah, that is actually a lot more condensed than my summary was.
Well, the thing about every version is it seems to flesh it out even more and more and more. You know, 1991, a convicted rapist released from prison after serving 14 years, stalks the family of the lawyer who originally defended him. Now, in the first rendition, it was that he put him away.
Right, and 1991, it seems like Max Cady is doing more of an eye for an eye scenario because Sam Bowden was not able to make him walk free.
Not only that, but Sam Bowden is shown to be a lot more fallible than Gregory Peck's character.
Yes,
the
unfaithful to his wife.
1962 version is so cut and dry who the good guy and the bad guy were. But then the 2026 version, where is that going? A happily married couple now faces a growing threat when a notorious killer from their past, Max Cady, is released from prison and seeks revenge. Now, on the face of it, all three are kind of the same plot. The difference being, in 2026, it wasn't just one person involved in the case. You might think just from the trailer that Amy Adams' character is now Sam Bowden, but
and that they just
that's not exactly the truth. Patrick Wilson was also his character in the trial. He was the prosecutor,
Tom Bowden,
and she was the defense. And so there's now double reason why Max Cady would find fault in how he was represented now, because the prosecuting and defense attorneys got married soon after he went to jail. So even more of a reason for him to have at least a point to his anger. But the way that this works, I saw these two episodes, and I thought so many people are familiar with this movie, the plot of it. They've been introduced to it in one way or another, even on the Simpsons episode.
My favorite Simpsons episode, yeah.
Rather than like go beat for beat in every single scene that happens here, I want to give my pros and I want to give my cons. And I think we're going to be able to get through a lot of plot that way, but also kind of like get through people's thoughts, what other people are probably thinking about.
Okay.
And so we'll start with the pro, and then we'll go to a con.
Okay.
My first pro. Now, you're welcome to jump in, too.
Because I have a list here.
You've seen it with me, so you can tell me whether or not you agree and what you want to add. But my first pro has to be the biggest pro of the whole show, the casting.
Yes.
You know, you've got one of the biggest anti-heroes of his time in Robert Mitchum breaking out with this role in 61. He had already been Night of the Hunter, which is also a very similar Grim Reaper type character.
I mean, yeah, he's loved. AFI in 2003 listed them number 28 on the top 100 heroes and villains list.
Yes, but you know who else is listed on that?
Who?
The guy from No Country for Old Men.
Javier Bardem.
There's no way you can't see the mirror between how this casting was done. You got a guy whose face alone, when you see a still image from that movie, can inflict terror. If you've seen it recent enough. And the same went for Robert Mitchum back in his day. So, like, I just think that, like, everybody is probably in love with the idea that, yes, he would be able to embody the Max Cady of 2026.
My first pro was that Javier Bardem is the villain. He's a great villain. You point out No Country for Old Men. Skyfall is my favorite movie of all time, and I think that Sylvia is probably one of the best villains put to screen. So you really don't have to convince me to watch it when I hear Javier Bardem as the villain. I'm already sold.
The funny thing about No Country for Old Men, right, is that came out in like 2008-ish.
Yeah.
And he's in this show, Max Cady has served 17 years. Just about the time that other villain, if he'd been caught, would have been put into jail.
But spoilers, he never was caught, so.
Also, clearly not the same type of crimes that were committed, but I do want to just draw the comparison. Then I also want to compare Javier Bardem to Robert De Niro's version of the same character, because the tattoos, the laugh, the again, the intimidating presence, and the creepiness vibe, like, I feel like it was super easy for Bardem to just put this mask on and say, yeah, this is my character now.
Everyone knows Robert De Niro and Juliette Lewis. They were both nominated for Oscars and Golden Globes for their performances. Javier Bardem, I actually, all of Max Cady, and I even said this when we were watching Katie, when we were watching the TV series and the movies, he reminds me so much, especially the scene whenever he's leaving the jail and he has like no bag, no driver, it's just him. So much of Lucas Hood from Banshee, which is notable because S.J. Clarkson, the director of Banshee, she directed some episodes, is actually the second episode. She directed the second episode of Cape Fear here.
Watching these two episodes, I felt like Max Cady's character did exactly what it needed to do. It made me hate him enough on screen, where everything I know is a manipulation, where people are falling in love with this dude left and right, trying to make up for the fact that he was falsely imprisoned, allegedly, and he's just setting up these bombs that are going to go off later on in the series, and you could just tell it. I also want to give credit to the fact that, like, the rest of the cast is no slouch either.
Yeah.
Amy Adams, she's got her southern accent. Now, I thought maybe she had taken that from Hillbilly Elegy, but that takes place in Ohio.
Yeah.
So that's more of a Midwestern thing. I don't think she can say that was a southern accent.
It's really funny when you look at her Wikipedia, because back to back she played Lynn Chaney in Vice and Ben Vance
that's pretty funny.
Elegy. And also she hasn't been in a TV show aside from this weird HBO Max Charlotte Webb's show that came out like last year. She hasn't been in a TV show since Sharp Objects back in 2018.
I don't remember that one. I just remember the title. Patrick Wilson, one of my favorite actors, I think, of the early 2010s, before he got super famous with Insidious and all that stuff.
He's going to be starring in season 3 of The Last of Us.
Right. And he was great in Fargo, right?
Yeah.
That was him? Yeah. No, he was great in that too. I like their duo connection, because it was like, who's going to be the main Sam Bowden? But it really is just a split, and mostly Amy Adams' character, because that's the one who Javier Bardem or Max is going for.
Yeah.
Now, what is her character's name? It's Anna, right?
Yeah.
So Anna, and then what's Patrick Wilson's name? Tom. Anna and Tom. Then you have CCH Pounder from Sons of Anarchy. She is the person running, I think, with Amy Adams or with Anna, the like Innocence Project, but their version of it, I think it's the SJLP.
Do you notice that she only, and I mean only now, plays a cop, senator, or someone in power? Even in a comedy like The Naked Gun, she still plays a police chief. Like, she has been, I feel like...
That was her in The Naked Gun.
Whenever anyone is, we need a cop, they always just go with CCH Pounder.
She looks like a cop. You play towards what you know. And you know who looks like an angry dad? Ted Levine. Because we've seen him do that in Something Bad Is Going to Happen Here, another horror show which was introduced close. Well, I guess it was a little earlier than summer, probably like springish.
But I mean, obviously.
But again, seeing him here, Anna's character doesn't like him, but what a cast, you know? So pro for that. Also, Scorsese, Spielberg, Cameron, Lucas, Del Toro, they were all part of this, right?
Yeah. Well, obviously not Del Toro and Cameron, but so this is something that I found very interesting. Originally, Spielberg was supposed to direct the movie in like 1991, but he found it too violent. So he called up Scorsese. They traded projects. So Scorsese then made this, and then Spielberg went back to directing Schindler's List. Can you imagine Martin Scorsese's Schindler's List?
I can't. It's like we're going to trade dark movies. It's not just like I'm going to take a light comedy from you.
Well, what's strange about it is that Spielberg was like given the job of Schindler's List back in the late 80s, and then he tried to give it to so many different directors. Roman Polanski, Sidney Pollack, Martin Scorsese, even Billy Wilder and Brian De Palma at times were kind of interested in doing it, but then Spielberg went back into it, and then I think Spielberg probably got the better deal out of the two.
He did. There's no question. If you're looking for just which is a better movie, obviously, Schindler's List. However, what I think in 1991, that when Cape Fear came out, it certainly, people were making fun of it. Like, again, The Simpsons didn't usually completely do a riff on a movie, almost like a how it should have ended or whatever, unless it was in the zeitgeist.
It was very successful, though. I think it was Martin
Yeah.
Scorsese's first movie to gross over $100 million at the box office.
Right. And so I guess it's time for a con.
Yes.
This 2026 version is doing what the 1991 version, where it extended it, it changed it, but too much is going on at this point. It's gone from, in the 61 version, you've got a tiny little case that almost the lawyer had forgotten about, which had happened, and it was ancient history. This guy appears out of nowhere, starts stalking the family in this small town. In this version, this is the biggest case of the
Yeah.
century.
Right.
The
And
lawyers,
what do you mean by that?
the
How so?
lawyers are, well, I mean, everybody knows about it. There's documentaries of it online. The lawyers have become celebrities because of it. I guess it's like the OJ case. There's people, they're getting interviewed at the time that Max Cady is coming out of jail, but not even for that case. That's how famous they are. They are independently famous. They have an audience. They have these galas being thrown for them for the SJLP. They've got paparazzi following them around. And again, Max Cady hasn't been like cleared of anything.
Right.
They're just that well known.
You and I have both like the same first con, and I feel like the show was also trying to dive really into the psyche of Max, but I think that's a disservice to the story because the thing that makes Max so creepy and the other two is you get the surface level that he wants Samuel Bowden to pay, and that's it. And I don't think you really need to get backstory on him in the show.
Sometimes simple is better. In the 62 version, they definitely didn't want to. They wanted you to fill in the blanks, but a lot of that was the Hays Code. They couldn't show you a lot of things. They just had him describe some stuff. That said, I don't really mind them expanding on the villain, trying to make like, that's all what the last 30 years of anything has been about, is trying to give some justice, or not. What's a better word for that? Just understanding
Reasoning.
of like how you could easily fall into the trap of becoming that type of person. But it's not just that. It's not just Javier Bardem's character. It's also that in the midst of their fame, you've also got these two other high-profile cases, which Anna is involved in. The one where the guy has already been cleared, the one who ends up murdered. And then there's one for a guy who's on death row. And so she's tackling all three of them at the same time. Their son has gone completely bananas. They've got a giant mansion that Patrick Wilson seems to be fixing up himself. Like, they don't have anybody on that. It's just him. He's on drugs. Like, he's doing drugs. The daughter is being stalked by podcasters.
So
her real father is AFK. No, I just want to get into how crazy this all is. Anna hates her dad. Like, that's just another thrown in storyline. And then you get to Javier Bardem, where he's popping up everywhere. He's swaying everyone to his side. He's imagining ghosts at the same time. He's got brain damage, and he's promising to keep secrets. We're not supposed to know what those are yet. He's buying houses. He's getting a dog, and he's also making these long-term plans as to what he's going to do and how he's going to expose Anna and beat Tom at like their own game. All of that together makes for just a cluster of really hard things to watch.
Well, yeah, too much going on, but also, can we just talk about Zach for a second? We have some crazy son characters in TV shows, Widow's Bay, Presumed Innocent. You can really take your pick. I don't think we've had as crazy a son character as Zach is. I mean, like,
kids are stupid.
Yes, but like, I mean, he's almost like incel level kind of in love.
So his
with this girl.
backstory, from what we're led to believe, completely new, because they've never had a son in any other version.
Right.
This is a new kid. He's like 17, 18 years old. And in the previous year, he had an adolescence moment where he didn't murder anybody, but he did show off pictures of the girl he was dating to a friend group. They got leaked. He got in a lot of trouble. And since then, he's had mental issues. He's also been kicked out of school, and he just can't adjust back into normal life. Therefore, he is very vulnerable to being catfished. And that's what his dad, what Javier Bardem's character is doing, who we are led to believe through very exaggerated cues. Like, they push this so forward in our faces that I don't know how it's not supposed to be. The main theory is that Zach is actually the child of Max Cady, who they stole away when they realized he was going to jail, and they didn't want him to know that his kid was still alive. But I don't believe that.
You don't think so? They're not going to pull
I think that's
all
too obvious at this point. I think it's the daughter.
You think it's the daughter?
I think it's a double twist. I think what's happening, because we don't know anything, I think Max is actually, or said that Zach is actually the son that she had, that Anna had, and that the daughter may end up being Max Cady's kid.
That would be a little bit crazy, I
I don't
feel
know. I
like.
feel like they've just given too much away about the Zach thing. They're still trying to pretend, though, that he is Patrick Wilson's and Amy Adams' kid, that he is Tom and Anna's kid. But you're right. Like, how is he A, catfished into this? B, how is he drugged and then convinced into eating his own toes? And that is not an
Yeah.
exaggeration.
Oh,
That
God.
is what happens in the first two
It's the
episodes.
name of the first episode, Fingers and Toes. I
Oh,
felt like it was a
yeah.
little unneeded when they went back to Javier Bardem saying that to
They milked
Anna.
it.
Because
They
I was
milked
like, we get it. Like,
They showed Anna continually have rationalizations towards, and this is what I meant by Max having like planned everything out. That he was going to give a speech, crash this SJLP gala,
right.
give the speech, make sure to linger on talking about fingers and toes. Then their son would randomly that night lose his toe and then regurgitate the
Yeah.
toe. Amy or Anna would then make that connection. In the second episode, the exact same formula happens where she realizes that he is the one catfishing their son because he uses the same word in the interview that he used in a text. And he winks at her at that time as if he knows that she will know that that's happening.
How is this plot, just not the most contrived thing?
That's not what contrived means. You mean like convoluted?
Yeah.
I agree with you. Let's get to a pro, though. It honors the original. It does. It literally starts where the last movie ended. Water, the soundtrack, it's the same soundtrack.
Yes, right.
Inverted thermal lighting. I love that. I mean, that's such a stupidly cool, interesting way of going about it. And it continues to ask the same question that the movies did, which is how far do you need to get pushed before your morality is pushed out the window as well?
I like how it takes place in modern times. I think that
I agree.
every single iteration has done that, but
Yeah.
I think that it also just works with this as well.
Yeah. How are we going to make it the same but different? All the versions are super dark. Even the 62 version has
Yeah.
the ability of, showing this guy. He's not biting anyone's face off, but he does get super rapey with the
Oh,
daughter.
God, the
That's
lemon.
the part that I would like skip over. And that's actually my last part of this honoring the original. Thank you for continuing to age up these kids. Also, thank you for not just straight up including a dog in the family, because that would have been too much of a giveaway. They've replaced that with a cat. Now Max Cady has a dog, but you also see skunks and possums, and they're mixing up all the animals and stuff.
I hate Robert Mitchum's lemon scene in 1962.
I blacked it out.
Near the end,
You don't have
it's
to
so
remind me.
gross.
Okay.
It's so disgusting.
In all the versions, we have the same beats. There's the prison release, the dead animals, and then nothing sticking to Max Cady until the very end. So I expect that to be the same here. This version amps up the violence to an extent where you do need to, if you're tuning in and you're not ready for it, it is a surprise. Having someone shoot themselves in the face and then not die from that and having to go through that process again, quite drastic. And then the next episode, you get that very gruesome prison scene where he's just like Deadpooling characters to death. He's not afraid to just beat them to death. And then, the guy spitting up his toe.
It feels like it's trying to be shocking. I'm going to a con here. It feels like it's trying to be shocking and like kind of flashy. I wasn't a fan of the
But
first
it's called
scene.
Cape Fear.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I didn't feel like it really had the coolness or was. I felt like it was trying to be too smart. And in the end, it really just came across as being like just kind of shocking porn.
I thought the double suicide attempt was insane.
Right.
But also, that would probably be the one time where I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Like, that is, I guess someone could survive the first shot to their brain. So it was weirdly entertaining, but it was really gross at the same time.
The brains on the wall was crazy.
The next con is more of a con for all of Max Cady throughout every version, including this one, which I've seen even voiced about the earlier versions, is the Terminator problem. This guy is just impossibly gifted at doing exactly what he needs to, and he's supposed to be human, but he's coming across like an alien. Like,
right.
if he's been in jail for 17 years, he's had brain damage, he wasn't like a tech guy to begin with. How is he so capable of like disarming this super expensive alarm setup that they have? Or like, yeah, how does he monitor everybody and know where everybody is supposed to be at the same time? How does he manipulate things, every situation where he knows that the police are going to come in, beat him up? He's going to end up at the hospital at the same time that the kid's going to be in the hospital, that they're going to meet in the bathroom, have a quick word with each other. It's like 5D chess, and he's murdering people at the same time, but we haven't confirmed that yet. I mean, just call him Kilgrave, because like he's able to manipulate people way more than he should be.
There's two comparisons I want to make. One, kind of like Heath Ledger to The Dark Knight, but also Old Boy's villain. If you've seen Old Boy, you know that the villain kind of controls the movie, and he is one step ahead of the hero the whole time. But the reason
he's
why,
uber rich,
right, and the reason why that works is because the mystery and the main character getting close enough, like throughout the movie, to the villain character. But here, Max Cady is at such a different level. Like it seems like almost Anna and Tom are like they're not even on different like.
He's had time to think about it.
But I mean, like he is so far ahead of the characters that it's hard to really just watch this because it doesn't seem like Anna and Tom are making any progress.
At least they know going into it, like how serious a situation this is, where in the previous versions, sometimes it took a while before they actually were like, okay, we're going to go after this guy. The next one's sort of a pro and a con. It's what we've already talked about a bit, which is the mystery surrounding the kid's lineage, whether or not, because that feels like it's going to be the crux of the show, is that Max Cady is going to eventually, it's going to come to a head that like, did my kid die? Because in the past, everybody said that my kid died, but I have the belief that you actually took him. Or something like that.
And I know that at the end of the second episode, he has like a weird vision where he like is looking at.
That's why we talk about brain damage. Yeah. No, that's Max, where he's bought the house and he's staring across and he's seen his dead wife and his dead kid. We, as far as I believe it, are still under the impression that he is the one who murdered everybody. Like, there's no other excuse for why he would have forced his ex-girlfriend, who he was seeing at the time, to then commit suicide 17 years later and leave a suicide note, clearing him of all responsibility, which everybody takes at face value, which is insane, given that she had an AirPod in her ear, and they could have tracked down that the phone call was made at the time that she was making this, that she was committing suicide. Something that really gives it away, if you've seen the 62 version, is he kind of talks about doing this in that, where he tracks down, after he comes out of prison, his wife before he goes after Sam, and he takes her away and forces her to write these letters that aren't true. Otherwise, her family would be at risk. So I'm assuming that's what we were seeing here, except instead of his wife, it's his ex-wife or his ex-girlfriend, who he then had take the blame for the murder of what he had done.
To me, it's the small details. That was my pro, because I didn't feel like the gender change or was like forced at all. Sometimes it really doesn't work with something like the 2016 Ghostbusters, but here I thought it was fine, especially with Amy Adams being in the main role.
But that's where it was like, it's kind of both of them. Again, it's Anna and Tom.
Right, and that's why I think it kind of helped a little bit. And then the atmosphere, like you were talking about with your last pro, I agree with that. I liked also the detail of Javier Bardem or Max Cady having the eye on the back of his neck.
He has many, many eyes. It's like his back is the canvas of Sauron. Like, he's got so many different eyeballs. He couldn't choose which one
Prison
he liked the most. Which is funny why the AI version of his kid has those monster eyes too. Why is Patrick Wilson's house? Why is Tom's house got these hidden spots in them that have been completely derelict, where the kid has been just going and kind of doing that whole Requiem for a Dream situation?
You're
just like, I don't know what's going on, but like that's part of the mystery, where it's like, I can kind of get into, I want to know what happened, but at the same time, it's a con because it annoys me that you guys are wasting time on this completely made up avenue that has nothing to do with the original series or original movies or probably book, and you're just like, I think, going off a whim.
It's hard not to feel like it's padding time because, yeah, it's 10 episodes, but it's billed as a miniseries. So they're not going for season 2. This is going to be its own, like, self-contained story.
All right, so that's basically the first 2 episodes in a nutshell. You got head, shoulders, fingers, and toes. No, it's just fingers and toes. And then why would I want to hurt you, which is the line that Javier Bardem is able to really put in there. That was intimidating to Anna's character and be like, hey, you just come out and say it. It's not like I'm recording you or something. It reminds me a lot, this show, of Defending Jacob, because you don't know where the kid is coming from. The kid in Preacher, where he's filled with blame. So a lot of these just come from Zach's storyline.
Yeah.
But the kid in Preacher, the one that did something or like put a gun into his mouth and like forever after, he spends time in hell too. But mostly this show reminds me of Happy Valley seasons 1, 2, and 3, a much better program and a much better version of a bad guy whose kid is raised by the main character and who then decides to go after that main character. But then that last season is all about whether or not he's found redemption, whether or not he truly does love his kid, because that's what I feel like they're trying to make Max Cady into, is not likable, but certainly where you don't like the protagonists either. You don't like Anna and Tom by the end of this. If that's what they're trying to achieve, which is basically just vilify Gregory Peck's character from the first movie, sure. Okay. I think they're being successful.
Morton Tilden directed the first episode. He also directed The Imitation Game, episodes of Counterpart. He directed all of Defending Jacob. So I'm glad to see that was on your comparisons. The pilot to Jack Ryan and also the first 3 episodes of Silo. And I believe that all the ones that I just mentioned.
Silo was really good.
Well, you also like Defending Jacob and Counterpart, right?
Defending Jacob was an interesting show. It was one of Apple's first. And I mean, seeing Chris Evans at the time do TV was quite interesting. I thought the kid could play, like, you weren't supposed to ever know whether or not he was a psychopath or not until the very ending. And I thought he did a very good job with this. Zach, I can't say his acting is that good, but they're just not giving him the material yet. Like, all they've had him do is go to the hospital, refuse to speak to his parents, act like a moody teen, but then also eat your own foot.
I know that the creator, Nick Tosca, he created Channel Zero, but also co-created Candy, which I know you saw the pilot of, and created a show that I know you really like, A Friend of the Family.
That was another one that I thought about as I was watching this show. The way that I hate Javier Bardem's character is not to the same extent of Jake Lacy yet.
Right.
Once he starts doing creepy shit with the daughter, which I am afraid that's where it's going to go. But like, at least, again, the daughter is much older in this series than she was in the other one. And I think because they showed her at least that they're going to make it so that, unlike in the
1991.
Was it the 91 version where she starts to like him back? I do not see that happening here.
See, as much as I hated the lemon scene in the 1962 film, I hated that auditorium scene in the 1991 film just as much. Yeah. And I think that the reason you probably hate Jake Lacy more in A Friend of the Family is because it's based on a true story. Well, this is just based on a novel.
Yeah, you didn't have to remind me of that one. That's a dark tale. Yeah, so bigger doesn't always mean better. I think I enjoyed the 62 version more because it's like it's like Spider Noir, where Nick Cage liked his version of the Humphrey Bogart character. Yeah. It wasn't a gumshoe, but it certainly was like, oh, well, yeah, this is a classic in time, and it's a simple story, and it's not blown out of proportion. This is blown. Everything is just huge. Everything's stake. It's like the whole world is watching them, and by doing that, by having so many eyes in that universe on top of them, it becomes less reasonable that certain decisions are made.
Right.
That no one would be suspicious of this guy, that they would let him get as far as they did. That C.H. Pounder's character is so quick to be like, he's going to be the face of the Innocence Project now. Like, she was so big on that. And I'm sorry that I keep on calling it the Innocence Project, but they even compare it to that. And I just don't know what the acronym to SJLP stands for. But yeah, so bigger doesn't always mean better. I'm going to go with a 5 out of 10 for this one, which is just borderline right down the middle. There's enough pros and enough cons. I understand Spielberg and Scorsese, like, it's directed fine,
Right.
but they're not the ones. They're just executive producing.
I think that, yeah, you're saying basically when you heighten the stakes, reality really starts to kind of become messier in a TV show.
When you make it so that these are the most famous people on the planet, it makes it less tangible or likely that most of the stuff that they were getting away with in the first two films could be legitimate here, like this, that it would work in the same sense.
I thought that the 1991 version was a tiny bit better than the 1962 version. However, I think that the TV series is probably worse. I would give it like something like a 4 out of 10, but it's gotten pretty positive reviews. A 7.2 on IMDb, 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, 69% audience score. The Guardian gave the series 5 out of 5. And then, but for a more mixed review was TV Line. They commended Javier Bardem's performance, but they said that he keeps the series afloat, like
Mhm.
just him.
Well,
So
you could say that about the villain in the De Niro version too. I mean, no offense to Nick Nolte, but he was trying. I think I read that he was like trying to become an ape or something in that film.
yep.
So
More negative reviews were like USA Today calling the series boring, and the Daily Beast called it TV's worst remake.
Hmm.
But one fact that I did find interesting is Gregory Peck did not like the book, and he did not want to call it the book's name, The Executioners. So what he did was he came up with the name Cape Fear, as in Cape Fear River in North Carolina, when he was looking at a U.S. atlas while searching for a geographically named blockbuster. And
I think
that's
I've been calling it the Executioner, like single the whole time, but you're saying it's Executioners?
No, it's at least that's why I have ran
It's
here.
interesting because like it's Max Cady is one dude, unless they're saying that he's Sam Bowden.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll have to read the book.
it's called The Executioners, but I just find it funny that ever since Cape Fear, which was created by Gregory Peck, that name, it seems to be the thing that people stick with.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Gregory Peck, which was great about his casting too, is that he was so well known as a lawyer in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
So it's like they got him and then Mitchum from the thing, and it must have been just like I can't even imagine what today's version of that would be. But it's like
they didn't like each other.
yeah, no, I wouldn't think so. I think one was probably like a method actor, and the other one was like not having that or something. That's usually what happens in that situation.
Mhm.
But yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'm pretty sure Amy Adams and Javier Bardem get along.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.